Welcome everyone to this next edition of Chapman Connects, and I'm really excited today that we have as our guest Mark Percy, a longtime friend. We've been comrade in arms in a number of initiatives over the years, and I know you've been very much involved with Chapman University as well. So great to have you on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about Mark. First of all, he's president of an exciting organization in Orange County. For the last year, he's been president of the CEO Alliance here in Orange County, CEO Alliance OC, and as you will find out in the show, he's done just a terrific job at that. But in addition to that, just a wealth of experience in so many areas. He was executive director of one of the largest family foundations in Orange County. In addition to that, he also helps advise, serves as a mentor to families, to organizations, foundations, in the transfer of wealth and values from one generation to the other. He's also had experience in the private sector, helping corporations and leadership in corporations develop emerging markets in new economies. He has a pretty good background in terms of education as well, receiving his bachelor's degree from Stanford University and then going on for an MBA at Yale University. Not too shabby, Mark. And if I may just make a personal note here, both of us hail from Illinois. We're Midwesterners, the Chicago area. And during the time I was in Chicago, there was a great public servant in that state by the name of Chuck Percy, Charles Percy, three-time senator in the state, former CEO of Bell and Howell, so a distinguished business leader as well. And I have to say, a great leader, the kind of person that I would watch and try to emulate and copy and see what makes this man great, what makes him such a distinguished public servant as well as business leader. And Chuck Percy happens to be Mark's father. So it's a special treat to have you here, Mark. Before we go on, tell, what did you learn from your dad? I understand when he was senator, you had to relocate from Kenilworth, Illinois, suburb of Chicago, to D.C. So right. You were a high school student at the time he was serving as senator.
Yeah, I was only 11 at the time, youngest of 5 children, and my siblings had gone to high school locally, but actually went to high school in Washington, D.C., and considered that home. In fact, my wife and children, we ended up moving back from Seattle after graduate school and lived in Washington for almost 20 years before coming back to California, which we had a lot of family roots. My mother is from this area, and we used to body surf at Laguna Beach, and when I was a kid growing up, so it wasn't so crazy.
Yeah.
You know, this seemed a lot more sane than Washington, D.C.
after 20 years. I didn't know you had those roots here in this area.
Yeah.
Did you help? How old were you when your dad ran for the presidency?
He won in 72, won all 102 counties in Illinois, first time that had ever been done, including Cook County. Mm-hmm. And so he was really going to make a push for the presidency. And so those 2 years, he began to form his team. And as you remember, Gerald Ford came in, taking Nixon's place. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Gerald Ford, my father asked him, and Gerald Ford said, I just want to restore dignity to the presidency. And after another year in presidency, my father went to see him, and he said, Chuck, you know, the longer I'm in this job, the more I like it. So he turned over my father. This was before we had warfare within parties. And he turned over all the information. Yeah. But anyway, he supported Gerald Ford for president.
Yeah. Well, Mark, now you've taken on the helm at the CEO Leadership Alliance here in Orange County, and tell us a little bit about it. What's the mission, and what are some of the strategies you're beginning to develop there?
Well, it's a unique organization because it is led by the CEOs. There are 40 prominent CEOs in Orange County that have been brought together it's really Doug Wilson and Dick Gocknauer who, over a couple of year period of time, former executives themselves, and they spent time getting to know the CEOs, and they really faced a couple of issues that they put on the table. One was, should we continue to do the good work we're doing? Many of them had corporate foundations on our own, or is there some benefit to all of us coming together? The answer to that was that they felt definitely there was, because when you look at the long-term structural issues in Orange County, they felt it took some collective effort. The other thing was, once the decision was made to come together, what strategy would they pursue? And so what they did was they actually, some of the strategy came out of the OC focus study that Marshall Toplansky and Joel Kotkin did, and I know you made the presentation with them to the business community back in, I think it was 2017.
Yeah, inspired by Donald Brent.
That's right, absolutely. So that began to paint a picture of difficulty in Orange County, really a fork in the road. At the time, we were calling them the need for high-wage jobs. We were creating too many low-wage jobs. And as you know, the projections right now over the next 10 years, about 66% of the jobs projected to be created in Orange County are earning less than $60,000 a year. Now, it's not just an Orange County problem, it's across the country. Innovation jobs are only created predominantly in about 5 cities, and venture capital mainly is coming from 3 cities. So, you have a whole problem of a lot of the job creation occurs by entrepreneurs in America, and we've had this steady decline in jobs being created by entrepreneurs and just startups. And since the Great Recession, we are down almost 100,000 companies across the country, less than we typically have been doing. So if those are the ones that are creating our jobs, we're in deep trouble. And that holds true for Orange County. We just have not been creating what we call now not high-wage jobs, but innovation jobs. And this was affected by Enrico Moretti, the economist up at Berkeley, who wrote a book called The New Geography of Jobs. What he's came up with was something that really kind of grounded our strategy, which said that for every innovation job that's created, 5 other jobs are created. 2
multiplier
professional,
effect.
A multiplier effect, more than the old 1 to 1.6 in the manufacturing industry. Innovation jobs uniquely, you're not selling within your local economy, you're creating a product or a service that is actually being exported, and so you're bringing capital into and profits into the region. And that creates a multiplier effect that affects everyone and helps everyone. So we began to do our strategy around that. Also, McKinsey was incredibly helpful. They came in, they had worked with Itasca, they still do, up in Minneapolis, which has been at this the longest of all the CEO groups around the country. And so they worked with us, and we came up with what we call our flywheel strategy, which really, in essence, looks at 2 things. One is the creation of these jobs, including new branding of Orange County for attracting entrepreneurs to come to Orange County and set up. The other is the other side of the equation. You need the talent to fill those jobs. And so that created a whole process that, like the work we've done at Chapman, OC Excellent Public Schools, focused on the underserved, because the predominant population in Orange County, we have to have a very broad education strategy. We have to start earlier. And so that is a lot of the strategy. And again, the CEOs themselves are driving this. We're kind of staffed to help them think through, strategize. But everything we do, we bring back to the CEOs to make sure that we're in touch with what they want to have happen in the county. And most of it is really looking at these very systematic issues that have to be solved. You can go after symptoms, of hunger and this and that, and we've done our share of helping, and all the companies do that on their own. But what they saw in CLA is the chance to come together and actually change the system for the benefit of everyone. And our vision is a thriving OC for all, and that all, especially with the killing of George Floyd, has taken on a whole new meaning in terms of absolutely committing to that part of our vision.
You know, I've looked at, you know, I think you're focusing on 4 different areas, education, industry, and so on. And in the last year, the Leadership Alliance has been a whirlwind of activity. I mean, it's really amazing, the different thrusts and initiatives that have begun under your leadership. And I now understand that the Orange County, the CEO Leadership Alliance in Orange County is not the only such organization in the nation. Other dynamic cities have also established these initiatives led by CEOs. I can't help but think you think that you're learning a lot by just by working with these other groups.
Every region is a little different. So, but Itasca in Minneapolis, Talent 2025 in Western Michigan, the Tampa Bay Partnership, there's a group in Seattle, another one in the Bay Area. In fact, 8 to 10 of them are all coming here in January of next year, and we're going to have the first conference of these organizations around the country to learn from each other.
So if we didn't have the CEO Leadership Alliance, we wouldn't have this cross-fertilization of ideas. In the work that you've been doing and talking to other groups and other cities, can you give us some of the strengths and challenges facing Orange County as a magnet for the kind of innovative leadership you're trying to attract?
Yeah, I think one issue is we just structurally have issues in the state in terms of the business climate that makes it difficult. We also have, you know, kind of the cost of housing, you know, which again, forces us to look at a strategy of innovation jobs, because those are the ones that are the highest paying, and also to look at an education system that has a lot of on and off ramps. With student debt being what it is, you know, what you want to do is set up a system where all the levels of communication, of education, are communicating with each other. So instead of these little, you know, kind of silos, high schools connecting to community colleges with universities, even adult education, but to make sure that there is that way of looking at career pathways, work-based learning, investing earlier, so that, you know, we don't have a 2-tier system in Orange County where a third of a quarter of the education system works just great, and, you know, people are going to the best jobs, students are going to the best jobs, they get the best internships, they have the network. What we want to do is create a network for everyone so that we interface with students earlier. In fact, we've organized we call it the talent part of our flywheel, which Jim Morris from Civic Life is heading. And we've organized all the CHROs into levels of talent commitment. So there's 5 levels based on if you're just going to collect data versus all the way up to doing internships, capstone projects, the Grand Challenge Initiative. The companies are coming together realizing to wait until recruitment season is too late. We have to, because we're losing our talent. We're not retaining the talent. We're spending a lot of money educating, and then they feel they have to go to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle for the best jobs. We can't have that situation. We're losing our young people.
Brain drain is the worst kind of thing that could happen to any local or urban area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, our whole strategy on the education side, the talent side, supply side, if you will, of talent, is to interface earlier, even at the high school level. And this is what we did at the OC Excellent Public Schools E-Prize initiative that was done out of Chapman. We incorporated that and partnered with them. But you know, we have to find a way of interfacing earlier. And also what we found is the education system is yearning for this. Everything is connected to the workplace now. I mean, the value of an education is the value of a good job. Yeah. And so it's not just graduating from community college. It's not getting your associate degree. It's not just getting a 4-year degree. It's the job afterwards. And so that linkage, it hasn't always been there. Sort of college for everyone was kind of the idea, but I think that all the levels of education that we're talking to in Orange County, there's an incredible sense that they want to interface with the business community more, and they see CLA as that way of bringing themselves all together around that common goal. We don't pretend to be able to do this on our own. We are partnering aggressively with community organizations across Orange County, but what we're trying to do is have the conversation around the key issues so that there is this common vision of what the problems are and what the approach could be over the next decade to change the trajectory of where Orange County is going right now.
You know, on the point of your experience and background and expertise in working with foundations, I know that you were involved in connecting one foundation with another in terms of helping underprivileged kids receive a college education and working with an existing Simon Foundation, which I'm aware of because I have the privilege of serving on its board. You want to talk about how those, how you bring groups like that together to end in the common good?
Yeah, well, the advisory board we set up at Chapman, what we tried to do is have business leaders, philanthropic leaders, academic, and business all come together around the common objective of how do we improve the quality of education for the underserved in Orange County. Gary Singer was an advisory board member, and so got to know Gary from the Simon Foundation. That led to, and of course in my decade before I took this job, I was really working with families. So I still work with the Son Family Foundation, David's son from Kingston. And I knew that they had a scholarship program, but that once I learned about what their goals were, it was easy to bring the two together because I understood Gary and what they were trying to achieve. They had invested an awful lot in putting a very successful program together. So it actually, luckily, the chemistry worked, the values of the two families worked, and so it was a huge combining of two foundations, and now they're doubling the number of students that they're able to help.
It's a win-win. And those people who don't know the Simon Foundation, it helps underserved kids in high school develop the kinds of educational initiatives and goals that lead them to college. The Simon Foundation provides funding then for them in college, and now they're even moving on to graduate school. There's a connection between Chapman University and our wonderful physician assistants program, where these Simon scholars can become physician assistants, no cost to the student. But it takes someone like you to take one organization that has a specific goal and a niche in that area and another and bring them together so they can serve each other. Here you had the organization already going with the Simon Foundation, but you had another foundation that wanted to support underserved kids. It was you made that marriage possible, or helped make it possible.
And the great thing is we're able to begin working with them now, because a lot of the programs we're looking at, for instance, we started an Orange Fellowship program, which is after graduation. And so we were looking for recent graduates that had jobs with Orange County companies within the last 1 to 2 years. But one of the issues is that it's not just graduating. The Simon Foundation, as you know, they've taken a population, the first generation underserved, that typically only graduates from college 11%. They've taken it up to 98% now.
Incredible.
It's just unbelievable.
What an incredible statistic that is.
But they will admit the next step is the connection to the networks, because you can graduate, but if it's not in your family, if the contacts aren't there, the network to get that good first job or even to go on in your career, that's what's missing for so many underserved students. They can get a good education, and there are lots of grants and programs to do that, but what we're trying to do at CLA with the Orange Fellowship is to try to begin to connect them together with others in the community so that they do some community service, they hear from executives and CEOs, they feel part of this. You know, the connection between the foundation world and working with families and what I'm doing now is because when you work with families, again, the usual feeling is it's all about the money. You know, our wealth is the money. But what I tried to always talk about was the wealth of your family is way more than your money. It's your intellectual capital, it's your human capital, it's your social capital. It's human capital is every single individual is valuable. And
So
are you
family
going
values.
family value? Are you going to
And
esteem?
they're transferred as well, if it's successful.
Right. So intellectual is how we work together. Social is how we connect to the community and what networks we build. And that's all part of family wealth. Today in what I'm doing it was CLA, instead of family, we're doing this for the whole community. You know, we're trying to say there is no unvaluable person in our community. I mean, look at the pandemic. You know, how has that switched? You know, all of a sudden we've realized that a lot, you know, people, janitors, healthcare workers, bus drivers, you know, people that are not honestly compensated very well in our society. All of a sudden people's eyes have been opened. You know, there are, and so, you know, we have to get at this two-tiered system. And I think the great thing is the CEOs of CLA all buy into that vision. They really want something that works for all of Orange County, not a sort of elite kind of a thing. It only works if everyone comes together. If we're able to pull that off, that's a very rare thing.
Yeah.
And if we're able to pull that off, and we have a very diverse community, 18th most in the United States, that would be very significant. And I think we have a chance to do it in Orange County. I also learned during the pandemic, people need hope. You know, people need hope, and I think CLA is something that, you know, we are trying to, CEOs have the power to convene around big issues, and they're also metric driven. So it's not a lot of talk, it's doing. And so I think we have a chance working with all the great strength, the partners that we have in Orange County, you know, to really come together and have this common vision for where we could go.
The pandemic obviously was a major theme in our update forecast conference, and you bring it up. How do you see, as a leader in our community, attracting innovation and talent, bringing various organizations together? How has the COVID-19 crisis impacted Orange County as a destination for innovative leaders?
Well, I think it'll be easier to lure entrepreneurs and CEOs. They can now see a model for their companies where they can have a smaller staff, but they can spread out, you know, their talent around the country. But, you know, this is a beautiful place to live, and so I think that cuts our way. The other thing is that
In what way? So you're saying that you might be able to attract the CEO, administrative leadership within an organization,
Smaller
but
teams.
because of the higher housing costs and higher rate of taxation, you might be able to have virtual workers.
Sure. You go to offices in Austin, Denver, other places, but you know, the idea, we've been losing a lot of corporate headquarters and especially large companies. And I think this may end up reversing that.
So
And
this
not
could be an
only
opportunity for
Not
Orange
only
County.
that, but talent too. I mean, people are leaving the cities, and Orange County is a very attractive alternative. So I think that, and the other thing is the less density. We actually, you know, we don't know the full story yet, but it looks like 34 cities is maybe, we always used to think of that as maybe a weakness. We don't have a central government, we don't have a central mayor that controls
Don't
things.
have the city vibes of a San Francisco,
Exactly.
New York, Boston.
Now people are realizing this is not a bad model. And you still have all the benefits of that talent and the infrastructure, but it's just spread out a little bit more. And our biggest city is, what, 360,000. that's why we're not even in the statistics often. We're lumped into Los Angeles
Yeah.
because we don't have any big city. But we also are actually looking regionally. So if you look at Orange County in the center of San Diego and Los Angeles, our goal and our mission is to grow Orange County into a top-tier innovation hub in America. So we also share that general goal with all of Southern California. Southern California has, the most PhDs and graduates in AI, almost any place. I think we're number 2 or 3 in the country. And so we have a lot of educational assets. And if we begin to work together as a region, and the Alliance for SoCal Innovation is a group we're working with that is really trying to help us to see a vision for Southern California. And I think once we send that signal out that you can come to Southern California, and maybe Orange County is the perfect place, it's right in the middle, and reach that Southern California market, I think we'll begin to see more international companies take a great interest in us. In fact, we're even thinking of opening up a little special class of members of CLA just for international companies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Before we end, we're just about out of time, Mark, but in addition to being the president of CLA, you're also the founder, and you're still the president of Next Generations.
Right.
Before we end, can you
Okay.
tell us a little bit about that calling on your part?
That's my own company that I have done my work with, family offices and families and foundations in philanthropy. So they were nice to allow me to keep that one account going, but I spend about 140% of my time on CLA these days. So the Sun family's been very generous to let me work in the time that I have.
One last question,
Yeah.
that is, if I were an innovative leader outside of the county, and I'm thinking about relocating from one place to another, and you're sitting in that chair and you want to sell me on Orange County, sell me.
There is an incredible spirit of collaboration going on right now in Orange County, and there's already a strong infrastructure, but it tends to be in silos. But with a little effort, we can begin to make this very entrepreneurial friendly for companies. We're trying actively in CLA to increase capital, venture capital. So that is another, if you have money and you have talent, those are the 2 key components. And then this is a tremendous place to live, as we all know. So I think that, I can't without knowing the circumstances, but I'd say give Orange County a look. It has the reputation of just, being a destination for vacations and that sort of thing, or retirement. And I think we are actively changing that, and I think we will begin to see over the next couple of years more regional conferences and innovation, AI, things like that will really begin to put Orange County on the map in a whole different way.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark, for being on the show, and I wish you and your team the best of luck in CLA or your leadership there. Can't help but think that the future of our Chapman University graduates, future generations of those graduates, will depend very much on your success.
We want to keep them. We want to keep them here for sure.
So
But,
best
and
of luck on that.
congratulations for the economic forecast yesterday. Excellent job, and we were proud to sponsor that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. It was a privilege. Thank you.